After falling down the stairs, I gained the ability to read minds. However, I wasn't reading the mind of my cold and aloof CEO husband. Instead, I was hearing the thoughts of their dog. 1 second, the CEO slammed a bowl down, the soup made by the housekeeper. If you don't want it, just throw it away. The next second, amidst the barking of the dog came a thought, can't speak human language, clearly you were the one standing by the pot for 3 hours. Men without a backbone deserve to be wifeless. Justin and I have been married for 1.5 years. His dad saw the money in my family, my dad saw the money in his family. So, the 2 old men struck a deal and paired us up. But heirs also come in different grades. Premium quality him, pure CEO, cold as ice every day, rarely smiles, works or does overtime. Low quality me, addicted to beauty, hanging out at bars and admiring handsome guys, wanting to give a home to all the handsome men in the world. Last night, I went to a male model bar with my best friend. When I got home and went upstairs, I missed a step and tumbled down the stairs in a mess. When I woke up, the CEO was sitting in my room on the sofa reading a magazine. Struggling to sit up, when Justin saw me moving, he put down his book and helped me up, looking strange. The housekeeper said she saw you sleeping on the floor when she came in this morning. Was that sleeping? That was fainting. Both of us are not the stay-at-home type, so for convenience, after we got married, we moved from a mansion to a small high-rise in the city center. 3 bedrooms, 1 living room. Each with our own room, not bothering each other. Oh, and a dog. A short-legged corgi, Coco. I waved my hand. It's nothing, I just had too much to drink last night. Justin still had that same old poker face, leaning over to put a cushion behind my back. I'm not going out today. If you need anything, just call me. The housekeeper took the afternoon off. I couldn't help but stare at Justin as he leaned in, drooling. His high nose, golden-rimmed glasses, giving an extra touch of abstinence. Disheveled hair, wearing a cotton home outfit, more charming than his usual suited self. It seemed like Justin felt my burning gaze, his ears turning red as he left the room. Who would have thought, the aloof CEO also had a pure side. I reached for my phone on the pillow, the screen already filled with messages from my girlfriends. I clicked on a voice message, and a deafening voice came out, Cynthia. Did you order male models last night and not pay? I had to pay the bill for you when I put you in a taxi. 7. A total of 7, I nervously moved my neck. The bar owner said there was a new boy band dance. What could I do? Of course I ordered to see it. I smacked my lips, savoring the memory of the 7 clearly defined abs from last night calling me sister, which suddenly brought me back to reality. Justin had somehow come in without me noticing. Sporting a face like someone owed him millions, he tossed the plate to the bedside cabinet, spilling a few drops of soup on the plate, looking greasy. The housekeeper made the soup before she left. Who drinks chicken soup as soon as they get out of bed? And it's chicken soup with a layer of oil on top. Seeing my disgusted expression, Justin's face grew even darker. If you don't like it, just throw it away. Before I could react, he picked up the plate as if to take it out. Woof, can you speak human language? You were clearly the one stewing by the pot for 3 hours. It serves you right to not have a wife. Suddenly, there was a bark by my feet, mixed with a strange teenage voice. I looked down and saw that Coco had somehow entered the room, standing on the carpet by the bed. Coco was a corgi brought by Justin. Most of the time, the housekeeper took care of it, and I just fed it occasionally. After all, our marriage was full of instability. If I ended up bonding with Coco, it would be difficult to divide in case of divorce. Should I steal this dog? Shaking my head, doubting if my brain was damaged and hearing things. Justin was almost at the door already. At my feet, Coco barked again. Cynthia, stop him. He's going to come back later heartbroken, hugging me while crying and wiping his nose. He'll be all dirty, and Nancy will despise me. I hesitantly spoke. Wait. Justin's steps halted. Forget it for now, I'll get up in a bit to have the soup. The next second, Justin composedly turned around, gently placing the chicken soup back on the table. If the soup gets cold, remember to call me to warm it up. Justin's lips visibly curved up a bit. Checking on the floor, Coco was rolling on the mat. Fur intact. Thank the heavens, thank the earth, thank the kind-hearted Cynthia. Nancy, here I come, I was convinced. I could hear Coco talking. But who is Nancy? And what does he mean by heartbreak? Although I had a bit of a mischievous intent towards Justin, I never had the courage to do anything, as I knew he had a true love, a white moonlight in his heart. They had known each other for a long time, and they still met up behind my back. Who needs a man with a white moonlight in his heart? Out of sight, out of mind, I deliberately avoided paying attention to them. So my knowledge of Justin was not that extensive. Justin's footsteps grew further away. I quietly lifted the blanket, took the chicken soup by the bed, and that chatty dog. I tossed a thin blanket over Coco's head and confidently walked into the bathroom. No way was I going to drink that oily chicken soup. I wouldn't even consider it. To prevent Justin from causing a scene, I decided to flush it down the toilet, even if it broke my heart. How did it get so dark? I can't see a thing. Outside the bathroom, Coco was howling and struggling. Justin really didn't go out. I walked out with the empty bowl, and he was sitting on the sofa processing files on his computer. Even at home, he sat very upright, his slender fingers flying over the keyboard. When he looked up, I gestured with the empty bowl. Justin didn't say anything, but the corners of his mouth kept lifting, like a praised little dog. Then I remembered something and held back the laughter. By the way, the housekeeper wanted me to ask how the chicken soup tasted. If it's good, she'll make it again next time. Although I hadn't tasted it. I could make something up. It's fine, I replied nonchalantly. I lay back on the sofa, grabbed the iPad from the coffee table, and started watching a show. I hadn't had a chance to watch the male band dance from last night yet. As I watched the screen, unable to contain my smile, Justin's disdainful attitude towards my soap opera addiction surfaced. Though he never said it out loud, every time he saw me watching those shows, his disapproving looks were close to overflowing. Can't I enjoy some sweet soap opera romances? I can't have, I gritted my teeth, speaking with a hint of annoyance. How do you know they're unrealistic? How, have you seen them too? Justin's body jolted, and soberly he said, "Of course not. It's just that there are girls at our company who watch dramas during their lunch breaks, and I caught a glimpse a couple of times. Of course. He's watching too. He finished those 2 episodes last night and even made some notes. Woof, woof." Coco chimed in alongside Justin. But Justin's cold voice had stopped early, whereas Coco kept going. I had to stop it. While picturing Justin sitting in front of the TV watching romantic soap operas with pink bubbles floating around, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Is your face twitching? Justin's tone carried feigned nonchalance. I'm sorry. I just can't hold back the feeling of nothing sad pressing down my lips. I started petting Coco, deciding to sneak into Justin's room tonight and steal his soap opera notebook. It would be a weapon for future teasing. Coco seemed to be enjoying the cuddles, lying belly up in front of me, allowing me to rub him. Cynthia, your touch feels good, but it's still not as good as Floria's. I know Floria. She's the white moonlight in Justin's heart. I raised my hand, ready to give a little tap to Coco, a taste of what it feels like to play both sides. Just then, the phone on the table rang. Cynthia, a piece of good news, a piece of bad news, which one do you want to hear first? A loud and carefree male voice came through. Justin's body unconsciously moved closer to me, his hand that was scrolling the mouse stopped. His ears perked up like Coco's. Even though I didn't believe Steve had any good news in store, he swiftly continued before I could question him further. The good news is, I've found a new investment direction. Opening a pet hospital, it's bound to make money this time. Without waiting for me to say anything, he continued like a dog chasing after a rabbit. The bad news is that the gym we opened last month went out of business. But it's not a big problem, as long as you... I hurriedly hung up before he could finish his sentence. After all, Steve reached out to me. Most likely, he wanted to invest. Steve is my childhood friend. As the saying goes, it's not that we fear second-generation rich squandering their wealth, but we fear them starting a business. Steve's life is a perfect illustration of this famous saying. The year he graduated from college, he opened a training institution. The education sector underwent reforms. The following year, he delved into the real estate market with great enthusiasm. The property bubble burst. Last year, he started a poultry farm. Avian flu broke out. After angrily losing his father's $30 million for 3 years, Steve was ordered to permanently forfeit his right to start a business. However, his entrepreneurial spirit was undying. Since then, he has been swindling our friends' pocket money every day to attract investments. Despite repeated failures, he continued to venture and pivot. Alarm, alarm. It's the arch-enemy, Steve. Initiate level 1 alert. Coco stood up and ran around the living room yelling. Arch-enemy, heartbreak? Does Justin, him, like me? But which good person likes a girl who frowns all the time? I feel like I'm the housekeeper in a historical drama. Waiting every day to say the line, it's been a long time since the Yen master smiled so happily. Not to mention, the number of times we've seen each other recently is fewer than the yoga classes I attend. Our relationship is more fragile than potato chips. I gave Justin a suspicious look and tentatively asked, "What do you think of Steve?" Justin frowned as if he heard something dirty, idle, and extremely incompetent. Don't always hang out with him, he's not a good guy. He'll just cheat your money. If it were before, I would have thought of Justin as a Pacific police officer. Who are you to meddle in who I befriend? But now, I have to entertain other thoughts. Sure enough, Coco's triumphant voice immediately followed, "Master, you sound envious and jealous. If you accuse Steve of seducing Cynthia, my ears will develop calluses." I blushed. I hadn't expected Justin to appear sophisticated on the outside, but twisted on the inside. However, setting aside his temperament, Justin indeed had the credentials to look down on Steve. He was a complete contrast to Steve. He founded a small company right after graduating, took over his family's company a year later, expanded and strengthened it, and the stock price went up significantly. His father has now completely become a figurehead, fishing and admiring flowers daily. You could say he is the ideal version of other people's children. The somewhat harmonious atmosphere was shattered by a call from Steve. Justin resumed his cold demeanor while dealing with business matters. As I sat on the couch, I became increasingly hungry. Glancing at Coco enjoying his food, I felt the urge to overturn his food bowl. How could someone with money still be hungry at home? If I ordered takeout now and said I was hungry, would Justin believe me? To break the awkward silence, I started making awkward conversation. The chicken soup earlier was quite delicious. Justin looked at me puzzled. I meant, is there any other food left by the housekeeper? Justin immediately put down his computer and stood up. Yes, let me heat it up. Various sounds of washing vegetables, chopping, sizzling oil, and stir-frying came from the kitchen. In less than half an hour, Justin brought out a plate of egg-fried rice. I just microwaved it quickly, hope it's okay to eat. I couldn't help but chuckle. Microwaved it, but it sounded like we were in a war? Am I so oblivious? I picked up a spoon and took a bite. Surprisingly, it tasted delicious. Aren't you eating? It's actually quite tasty, I said, eating the egg-fried rice hesitantly. Not hungry, he replied, busily transferring half of the food to a bowl. Let's eat together. Justin's ears turned noticeably red. Still, he ate delicately and slowly with a spoon. Suddenly, having someone willingly cook for you felt quite nice. The afternoon sun was warm, and it was still bright even after waking up from a nap. I took out my phone to tell my best friend that I wouldn't be going to the bar tonight. However, the first message I saw was from my dad. Dress nicely for the banquet tonight. Banquet? What banquet? I was confused as I texted my friend and casually asked Justin, my dad mentioned a banquet tonight, do you know about it? I know, Justin replied without looking up. What banquet is it? How come they all know, but I don't? Your dad's birthday banquet, yours. I was taken aback and quickly deleted what I was about to ask. Luckily, I hadn't asked my dad yet. He loves to show off now that he's getting older. Every other day, there are flower shows, tea tastings, and fishing events. I forgot his most important birthday. I panicked and quickly stood up, exclaiming, OMG, I forgot to buy a gift that's already bought, it's in the trunk of the car. Justin's voice was cold and composed, but it somehow felt reassuring. I know. It's a golden fishing rod, I found it when I was cleaning the house, and I took a couple of bites. I also found a few bottles of wine, a couple of diamond brooches, and I took a nibble of those too. Woof woof, Coco said as he chewed his chew toy. I mentioned to Justin that my mom suddenly had many brooches I had never seen before. Apparently, Justin was trying to win over my mother with these bribes. As soon as we got out of the car, my parents were already waiting at the gate. As my mother walked towards me, I opened my arms for a hug, but she walked right past me. Justin, you finally came. I was about to call and ask, my mom said. Justin smiled warmly as if he were treating her with the utmost respect. My parents gave approving looks to Justin as Cindy approached with a flirtatious and slightly arrogant voice. Why, look who it is, the famous Cynthia, sitting alone and losing money again? Cindy's voice drew closer, accompanied by the sound of high heels. I didn't need to look up to know it was Cindy. We've had our differences since 5th grade when I, as a discipline officer, wrote down her name as the class monitor. Ever since, she's been meddling in everything related to me. After Steve was forbidden by his father to start a business, he continued to invest in my name. As a result, Steve and I became fixtures in the entrepreneurial circle. What's Justin's interest in you? Big chest, but no brains? Cindy continued when I didn't respond. Seeing this, I clenched the wine glass in my hand, ready to throw it in her face. Since it was my family's event, I wasn't afraid of causing trouble. I have the money, and I'm willing to let Cynthia lose money. My money is her money. Justin grabbed my hand holding the wine glass, his voice filled with absolute certainty. My parents, on hearing the commotion, also cast approving glances at Justin. Cindy was taken aback, stamped her foot angrily, and turned to leave. As for me, I just wanted to say, dude. Our finances have always been separate. After marriage, I never spent a penny of yours. The investment money we used was hard-earned by me, my dad, and my mom. It was already midnight when we returned home. My parents insisted we stay overnight. I had agreed, but just before the words left my mouth, I remembered we were sleeping in separate rooms, so I decided against it to avoid suspicion. With sleepiness creeping over me, I asked the driver to take us back. Upon entering our home, I heard Coco snoring. Exhausted, I removed my makeup and was about to go to sleep. Just as I lay down, I remembered an important task to sneakily read Justin's soap opera-like notes. My greatest quality is curiosity, coupled with a strong drive to act. Unexpectedly, although I thought of it, I felt uncomfortable knowing I couldn't read them. Suddenly, I was wide awake. I stealthily made my way to Justin's room. His door was slightly ajar, just enough for one person to slip inside. I cautiously leaned in to listen. The sound of trickling water seeped into my ears like raindrops. Wonderful, Justin was taking a shower. Due to the limited room and large size of the house, each bedroom had its own private bathroom. To avoid making noise, I left my shoes at the door and stepped barefoot on the carpet. I must commend myself for customizing all the carpets throughout the house. The bathroom door was made of frosted glass. I could vaguely see a figure inside. Justin had quite a nice physique. Tiptoeing towards the bedside, I figured that such an important item would surely be on his bedside table. I slowly opened the drawer of the nightstand, keeping an eye on the shadow in the bathroom. However, I found only documents and a few USBs. Just as I was about to close it, a dash of brown caught my eye. It was a leather-bound notebook with fixed string wrapped around it. It looked like a journal full of secrets. Excitedly, I untied the string. But before I could even unwrap it entirely, a deep, husky voice enveloped my ears. The source of the sound was very close to my ear. It pierced through me from ear to heart, tingling and electrifying. Startled, I turned around, but stumbled over the slippers behind me and sat down on the edge of the bed. Looking up, all I could see were Justin's tight abdominal muscles. He stood there motionless. Perhaps he had come out too hastily, only wrapping a towel around his lower body loosely, with droplets of water on his skin and hair threatening to fall. Thin muscles covered his body, not exaggerated nor too thin, with faintly visible lines of his abs extending downwards. Lost in thought? His voice carried a hint of teasing. I came back to my senses suddenly. However, these were not my brothers who would obediently listen to me if I paid them to. I casually slipped the notebook under my butt without a word. No, I wasn't looking for anything. My bathroom's hot water is out, just checking if yours is too. As long as yours isn't, I can sleep peacefully. Good night. I stood up and tried to slip away. At the critical moment, I made sure to throw the notebook under the bed. Justin's damp hand grabbed my wrist, silent for a moment. It's fine. Come wash here. Now I was in Justin's bathroom, taking a shower. Just 10 minutes ago, I was sneakily watching him. I didn't expect things to escalate so quickly. Remembering Justin's faint silhouette in the frosted glass just now, I tried my best to shrink into the corner that he could take the risk, but I couldn't. I quickly finished taking a shower, wrapped in a robe, pushed open the door. Justin was leaning against the door, holding his arms. I just checked, the water heater in your room is fine. I roared with anger internally, but kept a straight face. It must have just fixed itself. It's normal, water heaters, you know, they have those days when they're not in a good mood for a few days each month. However, Justin seemed unfazed and moved closer to the wall. He didn't speak, but his warm breath hit my cheek. Not sure if it was the steam from the shower that hadn't dissipated, I felt the air become hotter, too nervous to breathe. Justin's head slowly tilted towards me, getting closer. This was the closest we had ever been. I suddenly remembered the night of our wedding. I don't have many hobbies, just love for money and beauty. Thanks to my dad, money has never been a problem. Justin's looks were absolutely top-notch in my eyes. So when I agreed to the marriage, I actually had some real intention behind the act. If it worked out, wouldn't I be getting both wealth and beauty? But on the wedding night, after everyone had left, Justin sat alone in the study, like a celibate monk. I took a quick look and went back to my room and locked the door. Besides, I have money. There are men with 2 legs everywhere. Then I heard about Floria. I was even more disappointed. As our lips were about to touch, I took a deep breath and pushed Justin away with force, rushing out the door. Back in the room, I touched my face. It was burning. Even though I had developed some new thoughts about Justin throughout the day, the progress should not have been this fast. At the next day, I was sleeping soundly when Coco's voice kept intruding into my mind. Finally going to see Nancy, yay. Yay! Happy, woof woof. Coco, can't you be quiet? I grabbed a pillow near me and threw it towards the door that I had tossed and turned all night and only fell asleep towards dawn, so I was extremely tired. Cynthia is so fierce. Nancy, I'm coming. And Floria's freeze-dried, I'm coming. It's going to be a happy day. Coco's voice grew distant, and I was about to go back to sleep when suddenly Floria. I jolted awake from my sleep. What? You would meet others behind my back, but flirting with Floria too? I threw off the blanket and rushed out. Justin was at the door, bending down to change his shoes. One hand held Coco's leash, and the other covered its mouth to keep it from barking. My cold eyes roamed over Justin's legs. How dare you play 2 sides? Watch me teach you a lesson. Justin shivered as if sensing something, holding onto Coco's leash even tighter. Were you disturbed? I'll take Coco and leave now. Let go. You're pinching my lips. Cynthia, help. Leaving so early, who's the important person you're hurrying to meet? Ignoring Coco's plea for help, I sarcastically asked. As servant and master, I equally despised both of them sneaking behind my back to meet others. Justin, apparently startled by the divorce threat, said nothing. Quietly, he picked up Coco's leash, sat on the sofa, waiting for me to change clothes and join him. Coco had finally calmed down, rubbing against Justin's leg. We can't leave. Master has locked the marriage certificate in the company safe. Both Master and I have a beautiful love and future. I couldn't help but smile. Thankfully turned away from them. The dog, always full of words. We casually ate something at the community gate and then went to Floria's house, holding Coco's leash. Floria's house wasn't far, just in the adjacent neighborhood. No wonder people saw Justin entering another home. After ringing the bell, the first to come out was a corgi slightly smaller than Coco, wearing a floral dress. Nancy, I've missed you so much. The 2 dogs greeted each other by touching heads and rubbing noses vigorously. I turned to Floria. Her appearance matched her name, dressed in a white dress, with a bun hairstyle. She seemed like a gentle girl. Hello, I'm Coco. You scumbag, stop getting close to Nancy. Nancy's pregnant. Stay away from my precious daughter. Floria let out a shout, completely contrary to her mild exterior, causing Coco to shrink his non-existent neck. Nancy ran to the large dog bed with her. Mother-in-law is so fierce. Nancy is the best. Floria turned back, wiped a strand of hair from her ear, and smiled. I know, you are Coco's mom, right? Coco's dad has mentioned you to me. I nodded, not sure what to say. But dog socialization escalates quickly. After a few exchanges, Floria and I had already upgraded to being bar buddies who'd recommend nightclubs to each other. I'm not kidding, the boy band at Nightfall Bar is really worth watching. I will treat you someday. Great, thanks in advance, I replied. But then, a thought struck me. Doesn't your husband, Justin, cry when you go to clubs? Why? Why would he cry? I was confused. Wasn't Justin supposed to be a high and mighty figure? Your man is very fragile. When Coco and Nancy got engaged, I asked if Coco's mother would be there. He started crying, saying his mother didn't want them anymore, Floria teased. I looked at Justin. Pretending not to hear, he gazed around, occasionally glaring at Floria. He could tell he still cares a lot for you. She looked at me playfully, raising an eyebrow. It's rare he has time these days. Besides, Nancy's pregnancy is a big deal, so he stayed today. Though her words were light-hearted, it was clear she was trying to separate her relationship with Justin from me. After all, I had never been here before, but I came today. We are all adults, some things don't need to be said explicitly. Nancy and Coco are still deeply in love. As we sat there, a few of us adults were bored. I took out my phone to catch up on yesterday's updates. Last night there was a banquet and a shower, and I forgot to watch the drama. Floria was also following this drama, so she turned on her home projector to watch it together. The more we watched, the more irritated I became. I exclaimed, "What did the male lead say to his wife? If the female lead ignores you for 2 days, you're ready to cheat for love." Exactly, his mouth is useless, he can donate it to someone in need. Floria chimed in. As we continued to criticize, Justin, who had been quite unnoticed, weakly spoke up, "Cynthia, don't you like aloof guys? Would you like a guy who has no way with words? But you've been praising those handsome male leads and wanting to marry them. Reality and drama should be separated. I'm not the female lead, you know. Maybe, possibly, what if his aloofness is an act? Pretending to be aloof with his wife? That's just pure foolishness." Justin hesitated, wanting to speak but holding back. Eventually, he diverted his gaze back to Coco and Nancy in their dog beds. After watching 2 episodes of the drama, it was getting late. I and Justin took Floria out for dinner, then I took Coco back home. "Goodbye, Nancy, I'll come visit you another day." Once Justin got home, he disappeared into his room and didn't come out again. When I woke up, there was only Coco and the maid in the house. Justin hadn't been to work for 2 days. If he didn't go to the office soon, even his workaholic persona wouldn't be able to save him. I casually had some of the lunch prepared by the maid and packed some for later, then took Coco with me. We had been married for so long, but I hadn't been to Justin's company yet. Upon reaching the front desk, before I could introduce myself, they called out, "Cynthia, the CEO's office is on the 16th floor, you can go straight up." I carried Coco upstairs. As the elevator door opened, Justin was already waiting at the entrance of his office. "Cynthia, what are you doing here?" He sounded pleasantly surprised. I shook the thermal lunchbox in my hand. "I brought you lunch." His subordinates who were watching let out friendly chuckles. Justin's ears turned red again. He took the lunchbox and Coco from me. "It's good that you're here, but why did you bring it here? It's so heavy." "Of course. It's to eavesdrop on your little secrets." Coco's wide grin quickly disappeared. Once in the office, Justin put down Coco and couldn't wait to open the lunchbox. Coco, who rarely stayed on the sofa, ran straight to the bookshelf behind the CEO's chair. Here, it's here." "Cynthia. The master locks the marriage certificate here." I chuckled and walked over, pretending to nonchalantly open the bottom cabinet door. Sure enough, inside was a metal safe. Seeing this, Justin stopped eating, put down his chopsticks, and quickly closed the cabinet door, saying, "These are all confidential company files, nothing interesting." Justin nodded quickly but nervously. I gave a light chuckle, locked eyes with Justin, placed my hand on his shoulder, grabbed his tie, and slowly pulled it down. Justin, confused, followed his tie down with his head, and as he did, I quickly tiptoed and kissed him on the lips, then just as quickly pulled away. Justin was momentarily stunned, the redness spreading from the tips of his ears to his whole face. "Is there something you want to tell me?" I asked. "Yes." Justin looked straight into my eyes, spoke seriously, "Cynthia, I like you. A lot." I replied, "I do, too." Justin's heartbeat was like a drum, even I could hear it. He embraced my waist, about to lean in for another kiss. The master and Cynthia are kissing. commented Coco innocently. Seeing the childlike innocence of Coco, I leaned against Justin and said casually, "By the way, Justin, Floria mentioned on message today that she wants Coco to be neutered to prevent Nancy from getting pregnant again. Alright, I'll have my assistant contact the pet hospital." I was actually thinking of neutering Coco after he's done mating with Nancy. But Coco's smile disappeared. "I don't want to be neutered, mother-in-law, how ruthless you are. I won't be whole anymore." Coco would surely understand, given how much he loves Nancy. Getting pregnant repeatedly isn't good for her. Okay then, all for Nancy. I love Nancy the most. I hadn't expected Coco to be such a pure love warrior. After dinner, I took the empty lunchbox and Coco back home. Justin looked reluctant, almost wishing to swap places with Coco. Coco, on the other hand, was still immersed in the fear of being neutered soon. With no one at home, the maid only came over for meals, not staying overnight. I put Coco down. He seemed still sad, but internally, he was very calmed. I watched a couple of episodes on the sofa before I headed to Justin's room. When I reached under the bed, I couldn't find it. Had he found it and destroyed it? I lay down to check with the flashlight on my phone, but it was nowhere to be found. Disappointed, I sat on the edge of the bed. "What are you looking for?" a familiar voice asked. Turning around, I saw Justin. "Why are you back? It's only 4 o'clock. He immediately wrapped his arms around my waist and swayed side to side, saying, "I missed you. Where are your drama notes?" I played along. Unexpectedly, Justin opened the drawer, and there lay the leather notebook quietly. I opened the spiral-bound notebook. "Do you really want to see it? It's not too late to take it back." I shook the notebook. "You can have everything you want," Justin added lightly. "Since you don't like aloofness, you don't have to pretend anymore." As I turned the page, I saw in big letters, "Aloof, reserved, taciturn, low-key," all crossed out with a brighter color marking, clearly freshly done. As I turned the pages, there were character analyses of various male leads from dramas I had followed, including brief descriptions and even quotes. But each page had also been later marked with crosses. I am genuinely worried about our future children's reading comprehension skills. I wrapped up the notebook and placed it back in the drawer. "Do you know what to do now?" Justin nodded obediently. Suddenly, a phone call interrupted me. "Cynthia, I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" "The good news is, I finally figured out why our investments always fail. Someone has been deliberately sabotaging us." I always knew I had a knack for business. I teasingly said, "I doubt it." "Who would be that bored? Steve and I have been playing small with our investments these years, nothing compared to his previous losses." "And the bad news?" I asked casually. "The bad news is, the person secretly sabotaging us is your husband, Justin." "Did you offend him?" I hung up the phone and looked at Justin, who had been eavesdropping. "Did you really do all that?" No, well, only the recent ones were mine. Yuri always with him, even though I have money, more than him even, and make more. You spent so much money on him, never on me." Justin spoke up, looking a bit forlorn. "Once he's lost everything, he won't come looking for you again. Besides, it all rounds off, it's like you're spending on me." Justin reached for a stock transfer agreement. I was shocked. Which CEO carries such a thing with them? If his father found out his inheritance had been lost in a merger and acquisition, he might just have a fit. But my dad would probably throw another 3-day party. I gave the contract back to him and planted a kiss on him. "You don't need these. Having you is enough."